speak to you this evening. I intend to speak for a great deal less than 10 minutes. I am at the moment not the incumbent MP for Hampstead and Kilburn, but for the constituency of Hampstead and Highgate. And I've been representing Hampstead and Highgate since 1992. I realise that the main interest for this evening is to try and dig out what is the essential difference between the parties who will be contesting this seat, as it will affect this community and also London. But I think, from my perspective, one of the central differences between what my party is looking at to assist the country for the future, immediately, obviously, to get out of the kind of international economic crisis that all the major countries in the world are experiencing, is we think it would be a total disaster to reduce the amount of investment that is going on, not only in the kind of infrastructure of the country, but also into the people of the country, in order to skill us all up for what will be an increasingly competitive world, and also to maintain public services. I understand the concerns about local interests and London, but I am a firm believer that we are all mutually interdependent. I don't believe in gated communities. I don't believe in politics of exclusion. I believe in the politics of inclusion. One of the things, I didn't watch every speech at the Conservative Party conference, but one of the things I did agree with was when Mr. Osborne said, "We're all in this together." And that is absolutely true. We are all in this together, but I am a firm believer that the people of this country have the energy, the creativity, the commitment to actually work our way out of this. I know there is great concern at the moment about the enormity of what we're told is the public debt. The figures are, to me, incomprehensible. But I stand here as someone who, for all my life, has lived under the enormous national debt incurred by our fighting the Second World War. I believe we paid off that debt about 3 years ago. And I must be entirely honest with you, I was not aware during those 6 decades that that huge burden was resting on my shoulders. And indeed, during those 6 decades, the opportunities that I was presented, and people like me over that period, and the fundamental changes that were made to our social structures, not least the NHS, it seems to me that we can certainly come out of this one. So that's really all, essentially, I wanted to say, other than thank you, and I'm happy to answer questions when it's my turn.
Thank you very much. And now, alphabetically, Ed Fordham.
Gosh. Well, thank you for coming here tonight to the Tricycle and to the James Baldwin Theatre here. I live here in Kilburn. I think it's one of the most fascinating communities I've ever encountered, ever lived in. Truly, I joke here in Kilburn that you can pick a country of the world and 500 people from it probably live here. And it's no exaggeration. You can walk down the high road and you can hear the accents, you can hear the traditions, and you can see it on the streets. It's quite unique and quite different. And the opportunity to represent this new constituency is quite special. One of the things about Kilburn, of course, is the wall that is built down the middle of it, which, of course, you can barely see except when either anything goes wrong or you want to energise things to happen for the benefit of the community. And, of course, it is the border between Brent and Camden. I think the opportunity of having an MP, the first person for centuries to actually represent all of Kilburn, and I understand that Hampstead is a key element of this, but Hampstead, I think it's fair to say, is pretty articulate and pretty passionate about itself. But in Kilburn, there is a need for a new cause and a new level of hope. And this election, I think, will be an election which I think we can describe as a change election. And so I want to be part of that change, and I want to be part of Kilburn here in northwest London. About the politics of it, and Glenda made reference that it's a new constituency. It is indeed, but it is, of course, represented where we are now by Sarah Tether, who's the Liberal Democrat MP for Brent East. There's something about these boards, aren't there?
It's the
I suspect it's the heat. But Sarah is an MP for Brent East. She's relatively distinctive, increasingly through Question Time, if nothing else. She's a household name. But Sarah is also quite different as an MP, and Sarah encapsulates some of the virtues that I would like to bring to this role. She is passionate about people. She's passionate about issues. and she understands the locality. She lives in her constituency she currently represents, as is part of the offer that I am putting forward myself. But the relationship that Sarah has with the voters, I think, is quite different. There are lots of MPs elected, and they go to Westminster and they fight the corner for their party. But I think that there is a different cause that is needed here in Kilburn, and that is to stand up for residents and for very specific concerns. I have a long-standing hero of mine who was an MP in times past, and he spoke at my school when I was much, much younger, and he said the key issue with British parliamentarians is there are very few doors they cannot unlock. If you're a member of the House of Commons, you can probably get into most rooms, and I would like the opportunity, and I put myself forward to be your Member of Parliament, to use that authority, to use that role to make Kilburn even better, to draw on its heritage, to take it forward and to represent all of the people who live here. I think the time for the border down the middle of the high road is past, and the chance for us to bring Kilburn back together is a pretty unique one. On that ticket, I put myself forward.
Thank you very much. And finally, Chris Pilk.
Thank you very much indeed, Paul. Well, it's a pleasure to be here this evening. And perhaps I could start by just saying a couple of words of personal introduction for those of you here who don't know me. I was born and brought up in South London. My family originally come from Peckham. My dad was born in Nunhead. And I was proud to be educated in the South London state school system. Somewhat against the odds, I made it from South London to Oxford, where I studied physics. And since then, I've moved to this neighbourhood, and I've lived in the current constituency or its predecessor for the last 10 years, and I really love this area. I'm not another career politician. I haven't been into politics since the age of 16 or 17, as some people have. I've been an entrepreneur and a businessman for about the last 10 years. I set my first company up when I was 23 years old. It was a distribution business, and I started off driving the delivery van myself. I worked hard, raised a bit of finance, and about 4 years later, we employed 150 people, and we floated the company on the stock market. Since then, I've set up 2 other businesses which have been successful. So I've, in a sense, come up the hard way, and I've always had to work hard to be successful. And that's an area of my life I feel very passionately about. I think entrepreneurs and enterprise can do a lot, especially for an area like Kilburn. And it's interesting we're here at the Tricycle Theatre, because I spent the entire day today, by coincidence, at the Tricycle Theatre, including in this very room, because I've been running a programme for the last 4 or 5 weeks called the Kilburn's Dragon's Den. Now, Ed talked a moment ago about what MPs can do for people in the local community. Well, I believe in taking action even before you get elected. So I've been running this programme for 4 or 5 weeks with kids from quite tough backgrounds here in Kilburn, from Harlesden, those kind of areas, trying to inspire them about what it means to be an entrepreneur, and been helping them develop business ideas. The final was here today, and the winning team, which was from Queen's Park School, just down the road, won £1,000 to start their business. And that's the kind of action which I'm taking already, and it's the kind of action I would take as a Member of Parliament to try and improve our neighbourhood and to build our young people's confidence and get them interested in the workplace, interested in enterprise. Now, the Chairman asked at the beginning about problems that are specific to our neighbourhood here in Kilburn. And if there's one statistic, one figure that worries me more than any other, it's this one. About 35% of Kilburn's 16 to 24-year-olds are not in education, not in training, and not in employment. And for me, that is a huge concern. It's a generation we're in danger of losing, and it's what motivated me to run this Dragon's Den programme here in Kilburn over the last few weeks. And if I'm elected, that is certainly an area which I'll be taking a really very close interest in. Now, some other areas which I think are important. One of them is police and community safety. I see our local officers left a few minutes ago, hopefully to patrol the high road and make sure nobody's doing anything they shouldn't. Now, I know that crime and antisocial behaviour is a problem in Kilburn and in parts of the high road at times. And I was out on patrol today with Sergeant Eddie Adita, who's the Safe Neighbourhood Sergeant the other side of Kilburn High Road. And I was talking to him with the Shadow Home Secretary, a guy called Chris Grayling, you've probably seen him on the TV, talking about